All right, this is our college algebra section 2.5, the graphs of equations and circles. So it really is just the equations of circles and how to graph them. Um, so we're going to look at basically three components. How you identify the center and radius of a circle and working with standard form, and then we're going to swap back and forth between standard and general form, and we're going to end with graphing circles. So just to start with, if you need to know this, the technical definition of a circle is kind of interesting. You need to put that in your memory banks. That the circle is the set of all points in a plane that are a fixed distance from a point called its center. The fixed distance is the radius of the circle. So that is the technical definition of a circle. Be prepared to know that. You also need to know the standard equation or the standard form of a circle with a center HK, and you can also add over here and and radius R. So we can put that as an addendum. So if you look at this, if the center is HK, but in the equation we have a negative h and a negative k, the implication is the signs change. So whether you're sticking the x and y value of your center into the formula or you're extracting them from the formula, either way you have to change the signs. And we'll practice that here in just a second. If your radius is just regular r, the formula calls for r squared to be here. So know that you're either going to have to take the square root or you're going to have to square depending on which way you're going. So let's just practice with this for just a second. If we have x minus 2 quantity squared plus y plus 3 quantity squared equals 25. Can we name the center and the radius? So we're going to put the center here and the radius here. Okay, if that's the case, the center, we have to change the signs of these two values. So that would be 2 and negative 3. Radius is going to be the square root of 25, which is 5. Okay, so just to do another, we have x plus 10 quantity squared plus y minus 1 quantity squared equals 9. Okay, and I'll tell you what, let's just make it a little bit more interesting. Let's do 7. So if we're going to get the center, again, change the sign and change the sign. But for your radius, you have to do the square root of the constant over here by itself. So that's going to be the square root of 7. You can't break that down, so you're kind of stuck. Now the flip side of that is, what if we start with the center and the radius? Can you go back and give me standard form of the circle? So if I have negative 3 and 4, and my radius is 6. Okay, we should be able to come in here and work out standard form. The standard form is always going to be structured this way. If that's the case, then remember we're changing signs. So instead of negative 3, I'm going to put plus 3. Instead of positive 4, I'm going to do minus 4. This time, I'm putting the radius into the formula. It's got to be, we're going from r equals 6 to, we need r squared, which is 6 squared, or 36. Now, what if you had this, 0 and 5, and then your r was square root of 3? All right? 0. It's not a big deal if you do this, but that's not the way you need to leave it. You're going to have y minus 5 because you got to change the sign, and then square the square root of 3. And if you need to work it out where you can see it, go ahead and show yourself, yes, I'm squaring that. This portion right here, you need to clean that up. That just needs to be x squared. So don't leave it as x minus 0 quantity squared. And then you can't do anything with this, so just bring them down. When you get to the back end, when you square the square root, they cancel, and that just gives you the 3. So just know that if you have a component that is a 0, you're not going to have a set of parentheses. So if you went the other way and you had x minus 3 squared plus y squared equals 10. Your center is going to be 3 and 0 because there's not a number with the y. Y is just all alone, so you get the 0 there, and then your radius would be square root of 10. Okay? Well, if we've got that, then we're going to skip through several of these because this is going to be repetition. So you should easily be able to find center, radius. So you actually have ACT questions that are this simple, and you should be able to fly right through them now that you know that. Now, if you upgrade it just a little bit, it says write the equation of the circle with center here and radius there. Same thing we just did. You've got x plus 2, y minus 4, radius is 1. So again, just repetitive. Again, repetitive. So let's go to the next part. General form of the equation. You might want to put this in your notes. Probably be a good idea. Got misspelled circles. Oops. Okay, now I would stipulate that a lot of times, if you're just talking about conic sections, they will put an A here as well as a B. And they're going to stipulate for a circle, A needs to be equal to B. Okay. So if you write it down with the A and B, that'd probably be better. Now what we have to do is we have to go backwards and forward from standard form to general form. The standard form is lovely. You can look at it and you automatically know, here's my center, here's my radius, and you can graph it pretty quick from there. General form is not so nice. Everything's kind of hidden. So, but let's just try the first way. We're going to take standard form and we're going to turn it into general form. So that's what we're wanting to do. We're wanting to go to general. Hopefully you have the gut instinct to just multiply everything out. So that's the only way you're going to get there. So we're going to do square, double square, square the first, twice the product, which is going to be 4x, and square the last. And then you're going to come in here for the y's, square the first, twice the product, square the last. And remember, the last one is always going to be positive when you square a number. And then square, you're not squaring the radius, you're just bringing it down. Okay, now we do have to clean it up to make it look like what we just saw. Remember, it was ax squared plus by squared plus c, plus c x plus dy plus e equals 0. We got to make it look like that. So we need x squared first, we need y squared next, then we need our linear x term, our linear y term, and then we're going to put all of our constants together. So bring the 1 over here, that's going to be a 15, and have it equal to 0. So we now have this thing in general form. All right, so just for the sake of discussion, let's do one more. Square the first, twice the product, square the last. Now go to the y's, square the first, twice the product, square the last, bring it out of your constant, and then it's just a matter of putting it in order. X squared, y squared, linear x term, linear y term, and then I've got 9 and 36. 9 and 36 make 45. Then I have to subtract 25, so that's going to give me plus 20 equals 0. You could grab a calculator and knock it out, but just know that you got to bring this 25 over. So if you wanted to, I guess it could have been easier to subtract these two and get 11 and put the 11 with a 9. One way or the other, you got to end up with a 20. Okay, so that one's not that bad. Now here's the problem that takes a little while, and you might have to practice with this. It says find the general form of the equation, and you were told that your radius is 5 and your center is 3, 2. Oh, this is not as hard as I thought it was going to be. So we first need to build standard form. So put our center in here. Remember, change the sign and change the sign. Try to remember to put x here and y there, because lots of times we just get in a hurry and we just put x everywhere. If your radius is 5, remember you got to do radius squared over here. And then you're right back where you were. Square the first, twice the product, square the last, square the first. Oops. That should be negative. If that's negative, then your twice the product should also be negative. Square the last, and then put it in order. Alright, and then you need your linear x term, your linear y term, and then I've got 9 and 4 is 13. Subtract 25, that should be a minus 12. Okay, Now we're ready for the tough problem. This is the one that says, okay, you have the endpoints of the diameter, and they're given with 8, -3, and -413. We need the general form of the circle. Well, if you're going to get the general form of the circle, you have first got to find the center. To find the center, you need the midpoint. So if you'll remember, midpoint is add up your x's, divide by 2, add up your y's, divide by 2, or you can just think average. So, I mean, averaging these things is pretty easy. 8 and -4 gives you 4. Cut it in half is 2. -3 and 13 is 10. Cut it in half is 5. So 2, 5 is my center. So I know automatically that I have x minus 2 squared and then y minus 5 squared. But I need my radius. To get your radius, if you'll think about what's going on, you've got the endpoints of diameter, now you got the center. The radius is the distance from the center to any point on the circle. So I need to use my center and one of these 2 points and find the distance. It doesn't matter which point, so I'm just going to use the first one. And remember distance formula, subtract your x's, square, and then the square of the difference of your y's. Okay, so if my difference of my x's from 2, well, let's see here, I'll just write them down. 8 minus 2 squared, and then I've got -3 minus 5 squared. All right, so that's going to be 6 squared, and that's going to be -8 squared. So you have got 36 plus 64. That is the square root of 100, which is 10. I should have written that down underneath, but ran out of room. So if that's 10, again, putting it in the formula, this is r squared, which is just 100. And then you're right back to multiplying it out just like you did with the other problems. At that point, it's just a menial task, getting all the arithmetic done. So I got -4x minus 10y, and that's going to give me 29. Moving 100 over, the 100 will be negative. So -100, positive 29 is a -71. So make sure that you're ending in the correct form, because when you get on the website and start doing your homework, you're going to need that specific form. We'll have one more video, and that's when we'll conclude this with graphing. Okay, so I'll see you in the next video.